Welcome to an overview of strategy execution and the KeyneLink process. My name is Gary Tomlinson, and I'm a senior consultant specializing in strategy execution. By the end of this presentation, you have learned a little bit more about strategy execution, about the key elements of the KeyneLink process, and what it takes to establish execution management as a core competency in organizations. You also have a better understanding of why change transformation is so difficult, and the necessary steps you must follow in order for organizations to successfully make the change. The information contained in this presentation is available to you upon request, so please don't stress over taking great notes. Just sit back, listen, and absorb the education being shared with you today. If I were to ask you, what's the biggest challenge facing your organization today? What would your answer be? When we ask this question of executives, we often hear these answers. We'd like more sales. We'd like better profitability. We have a need for more effective communication throughout our organization. We'd like to have increased productivity from our employees. We need to have higher levels of quality customer service from our people. We'd like better cash flow. We hear these answers as well as many others. However, here's the answer we found. The biggest challenge facing any organization is for them to know how to plan and execute while overcoming the daily surprises that always seem to get in the way of what's most important. Because an organization that can do this can overcome any challenge that comes before them. Execution is the great unaddressed issue in the business world today. Its absence is the single biggest obstacle to success. In Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, his research team concludes that strategy doesn't separate the good from the great. Execution does. Here's a scary statistic. Only 17% of company strategies get fully implemented. That means 83% fail at implementing their strategic plans. The primary reasons for this are threefold. One is corporate culture. We just don't have strategy execution management as a core competency in our organizations. Two is past habits. As human beings, we like the comfort of the existing routine. We don't like change. I guess that's why only 8% of New Year's resolutions are actually achieved. And the third reason is most of us have never been trained in the kind of systems thinking necessary to know how to put together all the key steps. Steps such as strategy, planning, organizational alignment, execution management, and measurement. Here's an important question. In fact, this may be the most important question for senior executives to ask. How do I build an organization that consistently executes its strategy year after year? Our answer is it takes a complete program. A program that consists of a repeatable methodology. Now, this is a step-by-step approach that aligns employees' daily activities to the organization's strategy. An execution system. This is designed to help employees get the right things done and to help management identify execution problems as early as possible. Organizational learning. This allows all employees to learn from experience and apply lessons quickly to emerging problems. Accountability coaching. This addresses the human tendency to do what we like to do rather than what we know we should. A really good example of this is Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is a $3 billion a year organization that tells overweight people they're overweight. They tell them to eat healthier, to eat less, and to exercise more. They put their clients on a scale, they weigh them, and then they record that weight on a weekly basis. Now, people who are on this program, they lose weight. But for many of them, they eventually begin to think, hey, I can do this on my own. It's not that hard. I don't need to be spending money on this. I can do it myself. And they quit Weight Watchers. And guess what? They gain the weight back. The reason they do is that accountability factor. Accountability coaching addresses the human tendency to do what we like to do rather than what we know we should do. And finally, it takes strategy execution management as a core competency. The end result is an organization that knows how to plan and execute while overcoming the daily surprises. For organizations to change, their people have to change. And no matter how you slice it, change happens at an individual level. It doesn't happen at a company level, a division level, a department level, or even at a team level. That's because execution only happens at an individual level. And at an individual level, change is hard. As I mentioned earlier, only 8% of New Year's resolutions get achieved. But here's a more startling statistic. In change or die situations, only 11% of people will make the change. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of life or death situation where your wife says, hey, if you don't start picking up after yourself, I'm going to kill you. Or where your boss says, if you don't start picking up your sales, you're going to get canned. No, I'm talking about the kind of change or die situation where your doctor sits you down, looks you in the eye, and says, if you don't start doing this or stop doing that, you're going to die. In those situations, credible medical research shows that only 11% of people will make the change. Why is change so hard? The primary obstacle is a conflict that's built into our brains. Psychologists have discovered that our minds are ruled by two different systems, the rational mind and the emotional mind, and both compete for control. For example, that rational mind wants that great beach body. However, the emotional mind wants the Oreo cookie. The rational mind wants to change something at work, but the emotional mind loves the comfort of the existing routine. The tension between this duo can doom a change effort. In their book Switch, the Heath brothers found 3 surprises about change. The first is what looks like resistance is often lack of clarity. If you want people to change, you must provide crystal clear direction. 2, what looks like laziness is often exhaustion. Self-control is an exhaustible resource. Change is hard because people wear themselves out. And third, what looks like a people problem is often a situation problem. You can change people's behavior by just shaping their path. Tweaking in the environment is about making the right behaviors a little easier and the wrong behaviors a little bit harder. When change works, it tends to follow a pattern. The people who change, they have clear direction, ample motivation, and a supportive environment. To establish execution management as a core competency, you need to have a strategy execution management system that's designed to help leaders manage execution down to an individual level. As Michael Gerber stated in his book, The E-Myth Manager, the system is the solution. And that without a system, you're playing Russian roulette with the results. Strategy execution management systems are relatively new. They haven't been around that long, and there aren't that many of them in the marketplace. I've studied most of the systems, and I specifically have chosen to use the KeyneLink system created by Kelly and Wayne Nelson of Keen Insight. I did so for a variety of reasons, but mainly because of its simplicity. Change is hard, and if the solution isn't simplistic, it won't get implemented, and it surely won't be able to be sustained. In fact, we found the more complex the organization, the simpler the solution needs to be. Earlier I stated that when change works, it tends to follow a pattern. The KeyneLink process follows this pattern of successful change. It provides clear direction, ample motivation, and a concise and consistent path to follow. The KeyneLink system is part process, part software, and part roadmap. It's been specifically designed to close this huge gap between strategy and implementation. Here's our definition of strategy execution management. It's the process of clarifying, deploying, and achieving organizational initiatives. This requires 2 key components. 1 is actionable intelligence on the initiatives, and 2 is the management leadership structure and processes to manage execution at an individual level. There are 5 key elements of the KeyneLink process. The first one is the foundation data. This is comprised of the mission, vision, core values, and initiatives. In the KeyneLink process, these are more than just statements that get displayed on a company's wall. It's the clarification and articulation of the foundation data that paints a clear picture of the target for everyone in the organization to aim for. The second element is performance agreements. These are agreements between a manager and their direct report. They reflect the employee's performance commitments including their primary job responsibilities and their goals that are towards the company's initiatives. The performance agreement paints a clear picture of a target for each employee to hit. The third is progress meetings. These are regularly scheduled communication meetings between the manager and their direct report, and they are around the employee's performance agreement. This is the key to successful strategy execution. The fourth are reports. All the data that's inputted into the KeyneLink system by everyone goes into a series of reports, and these reports help the leaders manage strategy execution throughout the organization. And the fifth element is quarterly leadership team meetings. The purpose of these meetings is to keep strategy execution at the forefront. I hope this presentation has given you a good idea about strategy execution and about the KeyneLink process. We've been working on this system for more than a decade, and we feel we've come up with not only the best process, but also the best model for implementation. The more you learn about this model, the more it will come across as just good common sense. But common sense doesn't mean common practice. That's why execution is the great unaddressed issue in the business world today. You'll find very few organizations that have strategy execution as a core competency, and that's what makes this such an incredible opportunity. If you're a senior executive and you'd like to know more about this for your organization, I hope you'll contact me, because there's nothing more critical than successfully executing your company's strategic plan year after year. Now, if you'd like a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, send me an email and I'll send you a copy. My phone number is 919-847-6235, and my email address is gary@gary-tomlinson.com. I'll leave you now with this famous quote from Thomas Edison: "Vision without execution is hallucination."